Broder looked him square in the face and said, yeah, you didn't really address the defensive line. Are you confident with the defensive line? Like, what's your kind of philosophy on it all? And which I think was a great question. It really was. So shout out to Broder for that one. And Dan pretty much summarized it with, hey, we feel comfortable with who we have currently. They obviously have to get better. They have to do their job. I think that's what he said mostly. But he is comfortable with what they have, Sam Flannel, currently. And I think people would probably disagree with that statement. For people like me, who during the 2023 NFL Draft, my biggest need and biggest want for this team is to go address that defensive tackle position. I think that was something we all clamored for. Jalen Carter, Kalijah Cansey, so on and so forth, Mozzie Smith, whoever it was, that was number one on most Lions fans' radar. But now you look, back at the draft. They took Broderick Martin in the 4th round, and they took Aleem McNeil only 2 years ago. They got Levi Ozarike back from a back injury. They drafted Pascal last year from Kentucky. And I'll ask you, Sam Flannel, how far off is Dan? Or do you agree with them? Do the Lions, you feel, have enough this year to be a middle of the pack, if not somewhat impressive defensive line?
I think that it has potential, but there's obviously still some question marks. Here's where I think the Lions' defensive front there is an advantage. I do like what they have from the edge rusher position. Obviously, James Houston is a guy who had 8 sacks in 7 games. Aiden Hutchinson, to me, is another gold jacket guy while I'm passing him out, but everybody already knew that I thought that way. You got the Okwara brothers. Romeo once had a 10-sack season. Julian had 5 in 2021. You have Charles Harris, who led the team in sacks in 2021 with 7.5. I don't know if you'd consider him defensive lineman, but you know what I mean. Edge rushers help the interior of the defensive line. But I will say this. I think a parlay of things has to happen for the Lions to have what I would say a defensive line that they, even though they didn't address, is still very, very good. Or they addressed them with like a guy like Broderick Martin. They didn't address it with like a Jalen Carter or Kalijah Cansey. I think that Aleem McNeil has to take that step, that I think that he will, given the fact that he lost weight, he lost body fat. He says that he is more agile. And I think if he takes that leap. He has a couple of more games like he did at the New York Giants last year where he was dominant, gets more interior pass rush and can get off blocks quicker, maybe be a little bit better against the run. I think if he takes that leap and becomes the leader of the interior defensive line and the best player, I think that they could have a very good one. Another guy that I want to point out too is John Kaminsky. If John Kaminsky does anything similar, that's right. If John Kaminsky does anything similar to what he did last year, in which he was 3rd on the team in sacks, was valuable against the run, was one of the more unsung heroes of this team. I mean, the Lions were 9-5 in games that he played, and their defense often looked very, very good. If he does anything similar to what he did last year, if he proves that last year wasn't just a mirage, wasn't just a flash in the pan, I think the Lions could potentially have a very, very good defensive line.